You're tuned in to the MtG Cable cast, where they cover Magic, the Gathering Finance. All right? You don't know about it? You're tuned in right now and get ready to learn some shit. Buckle your seatbelts and light a blunt and get ready for the MtG Cable cast. Starring Reptar and Thirsty, them onion head motherfuckers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the newest episode of the Cabalcast. And this week, we're doing a twist on one of our classic episodes.
Yes.
So, for a long time, we've done our set preview, review, whatever you want to call it. Well, we realized that because of collector boosters and because sets are getting open into the ground, doing it from a financial perspective is pointless because everything's overpriced right now. So instead, we're going to weed through the hype that we've read on the internet, that we've heard in store, everywhere, and basically give you our opinions on what we think is overhyped, just right, underhyped, anywhere in between, how awful the ring is as a mechanic. We'll save that for another episode. It's parasitic, it's awful, don't do it.
Yep.
Anyways, with all that said, let's take it away.
All right. So we talked about this a little bit ahead of time, just so I could have everything set up as, director, producer. I got to have all my images set up. For me, overhyped was then and still now Delighted Halfling. That is the number one overhyped card. The ring aside, because I think that card is appropriately hyped. People love it. It does a ton of great stuff. And because of how powerful the tempt mechanic is, I believe that the ring is not actually overhyped. A lot of the cards that tempt are not actually overhyped because it is a very good mechanic. People want to play with it. It's going to change the way games play when it's introduced, much like the Monarch or Monarchy, whatever it is. And the
Terrible
initiative.
mechanic, too. Mechanic, too.
But they both change the context of the game in different ways. And tempting is so powerful, every step's so powerful, that I think all the cards that tempt are appropriately hyped. So we'll skip past that and just go straight to Delighted Halfling. This is a 1-mana 1/2 that people went absolutely nuts for when it got spoiled. It's a Halfling citizen, cool, doesn't really matter. It taps to add 1 colorless, or it taps to add 1 mana of any color, and you can only spend that mana to cast a legendary spell, and that spell can't be countered. Interesting, the last little clause on that. That basically makes it different than Gateway Plaza, but this is nowhere near better than Birds of Paradise, really, as far as Commander is concerned. And the idea that this pushes Eldrazi-tron in Modern to some incredible heights is just laughable. That deck doesn't need a 1-mana dies to lightning bolt bird. It needs to spin its wheels to get to 2 and then 7 mana as quickly as possible. 2 being the green you need to cast your Sylvan Scrying to ensure you hit the rest of your pieces. 1/3/7 is a lot easier just off Tron, and that gets you to Worm and Karn. This doesn't really fit in. 1-3 is okay, but that means you need the Forest on the first turn, which also changes your mana base. And if you're going Tron land into Sphere or Star, next turn you can pop that to play Halfling, and now you have your second land drop doing a lot of nothing, and you don't really want that to be the case.
Yeah.
You want to be able to just kind of churn through more spells. You can use it to play, another cantrip of sorts, another Sphere, Star, or Relic. If you're, I think the E-Tron might still play that, not 100%.
Yeah, they do.
But you want to be churning through your deck. You want to be casting, sadly, Matter Reshapers ahead of curve. You can't cast this off of any of the colorless lands in the deck. You actually have to slant your mana base, and that makes it very difficult. There is the idea that you could kind of play this if you wanted to. Go back to the red-green Eldrazi Stompy deck with Obligator, because it makes colorless, right? It's a colorless source. You can't play birds in that deck, really. You can play this, though. But the legendary clause doesn't matter there. So, okay, interesting. What do? Just go straight into Modern, and the Esper Legends deck doesn't exist. Probably won't. So that puts us in Commander. All right, is this better than Birds? Probably not, because of the legendary clause. So it's casting your Commander and some other odds and ends in the deck. It's very restrictive. Does the counter spell clause matter? I don't think so. Not at all. I don't think any part of the hype about this card is realistic. I think it's just going to settle and fall. It's going to be more like the Hierarchs in Commander than Birds of Paradise, where it's just going to sit in some deck that wants colorless because its general or its strategy makes use of that wingding mana.
Yeah.
That's it.
So this was also one of my overhyped cards. Look, this card has a home. It's in Selvala Brostorm. It's in green-based CEDH decks. Other than that, why would I care about this card? What legends am I casting in Legacy with this that I care about? What legends am I casting in Modern that I care about this? Omnath? Omnath doesn't care about counter spells.
No, not at all.
It has no relevance there. I just don't see, and I get it. It's mana fixing for any color that works in Epic because those spells are legendary for some reason. Like that's it though. That's where I see this is the end. That's the end of it. We're done. We're moving on. Mm-hmm. This is what this card does. There's not a whole lot of substance to it, not a whole lot of flash, and I just honestly I don't get it. I don't. And maybe that's on me. Maybe it's obvious and I'm just missing something, but to me there's really not much here to it. I don't see the draw for this card. Why everyone wants this card to just be the best thing on earth. No. It's not, looking at it, something I actually really care about. It's just, oh yeah, I mean, this is a card, I guess.
If I cared about the mana for Legendary's Claws, I'd be playing Plaza of Heroes in my deck. It doesn't have the anti-counter ability on it, sure, but again, it's my commander. I'm going to be able to play it again at any point in time. And then it just becomes a lot more difficult to deal with Plaza than Halfling in Commander because one's a land and the other's a 2 toughness creature that costs 1 mana. Not very difficult to deal with. Yeah. So for me, this card was just like, it sounded like people went nuts when this was revealed. I didn't understand it then.
I don't get it.
I still don't understand the appeal. All right. So you mentioned this is one of the overhyped cards you were looking at. The other ones are, and I say this because it's a group, right?
Yeah, it's the non-serialized rings. Look, they're great. Don't get me wrong. Okay. The thing is, this is effectively, these are case hits from sports cards. They're gonna tank. Okay, I get it. They're awesome. They're exciting. They're amazing. The only reason people are excited for these cards is because of the financial value attached to them, which, newsflash, is going to tank. Here's a prime example. We had the last sale for the Elven Ring was a pre-sale at $69. Nobody's bought 1 cent. Human Ring earlier today for $450. They're now down to $350 with no sales. Dwarven Ring $500. Now down to $400. No sales. Like these cards are great. Don't get me wrong. These are not the kind of thing that people should be this excited for if it's based purely on financial value, which it seems to be. Yeah. Because I can't imagine when the Doctor Who Universes Beyond comes out, if there are soul rings in Doctor Who, which you better believe there will be, because there's plenty of ways to like integrate that into Doctor Who lore. They're not going to be this much. They're not going to be this excited. There's no way. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't work like that. I don't see how it's possible. And I don't get I don't know if draw is the right word, because I understand the draw to this card. I just don't understand why the draw is so incredibly great compared to where it's at now. That's just mind-boggling to me. Maybe that's wrong. I just don't get it. It is a complete baffling mystery to me of like unfathomable proportions. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. It's not like any other card like this I've ever seen, because people think this is the best thing ever, and it's just not that good to me. Maybe that's wrong, but that's just how it seems, is like, this is fine. Yeah. No, I just don't think they're the best Soul Ring ever printed like everyone seems to be. There is no reason for these cards to command as much value as a masterpiece Soul Ring. I get it. Lord of the Ring collectors have money. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You know what's going to happen in 6 to 8 months? No Lord of the Rings collector is going to give a flying fuck about these cards because they've all got them. The end. And at that point, the market drops, the price drops. It's just overhyped. Just get rid of them now while you can, because no one's going to care in a few months.
No, I get that. And I think there's a difference between like sourcing them out and casually picking them up. Like I wasn't going to source these at all for finance reasons or collection reasons. Yeah. But today I had a human one fall in my lap. The line on it is $350. Do I believe that's going to hold long term? But no, not really. Or sorry, for the short term, no, not really. But I'll drop the $350 on it in a couple of weeks. I've already locked the price. I just gotta, travel to go pick it up. When I travel, I'll pick it up.
That's the thing. If you're getting it for yourself because you want it, I don't think this card is overhyped.
Nope.
I think everyone's saying, "Oh, this is the coolest thing. I can't wait to open one. It's going to be amazing." Like, no, it's like if you want it, that's awesome. Good for you. Most of the hype though that I've seen is just people about the value.
But that's exactly it. I'm agreeing with that too. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like will I probably get hosed on this at
Sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get ranched on it.
I bought plenty of cards during COVID knowing I would get hosed. Yeah. But when you want it, the number's the number and it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So if it didn't fall into my lap, I wouldn't care about it at all. I wasn't going to source these at all. If I opened one when I was jamming this weekend or in the future, cool. But I'm not going to sit here and have the set. I'm not going to have the 3 or whatever next to the ring in my binder. I don't care that much. I'm not that much of a Lord of the Rings fan that I got to do it. End of the day. So I agree. I don't understand the hype of saying like, oh, I got to run out and I got to get it. It just doesn't make that much sense to me either. It's just everything about it seemed blown way out of proportion for the non-serialized stuff. And so, it's just for me as well. It's just kind of wash on it.
Yeah.
Moving through, though, for me, something that I think is just kind of like appropriately hyped. And again, remember, we're not talking about based on price. This is just what we're seeing and what we agree with. It is Orcish Bowmasters. I think this card is appropriately hyped. This is a 1/1 for a colorless and a black flash Orc Archer. But when it ETBs, and whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, it deals 1 damage to any target, then amass Orcs 1. And I think all said and told, this is extremely good. Now, this is basically what people have said, sliding straight into Legacy. And I think the format is in a spot where that is correct. Death Shadow is still a deck. People are still playing Baleful Strix in various decks. I think this has legs, no pun intended. There are 4 of them on this card in Legacy.
And it makes more.
Exactly. So you can slot this in against just the format because it is a blue Brainstorm-based format. Great. People still want to play Reanimator with Gristlebrand, Tin Fins with Gristlebrand, Sneak and Show with Gristlebrand. Cool. This mercs Gristlebrand when they go to draw. Right? This shuts down any other just value draw engine. Lands decks, for instance, that just want to sit there and pitter-patter and draw with Wrenn and 6. Or not recycle the cycle lands with Wrenn and 6 and just draw. Cool. One a turn. Kill a Wrenn and 6 and then 1 a turn after that, right? And I think for this, it's appropriately hyped. The wrinkle here, though, is that people are treating this like it's some kind of Dockside Extortionist in black for Commander, and I think that's a little too far off the mark. They don't realize that it's not going to stop the blue player or players at the table from even casting Rhystic Study or Mystic Remora, let alone stopping the Wheels player from doing anything. It doesn't matter. Cool, this can start machine gunning the table when the Wheels player casts the wheel. But the whole point of casting that wheel isn't necessarily to combo, quote unquote, with Nekasar. It's to do whatever else comes up in that hand and continue going. And you're not going to get there against the Wheels deck with a singular Orcish Bowmaster. Even if you just dome the player and not whatever's on board. It takes a long time to get there. So that's the only wrinkle for me is there's this kind of disparity in how people view it for Commander. But outside of that weird vocal group that think Bowmasters is just the second coming of Dockside Extortionist, I think this is very appropriately hyped for Constructed in regards to Legacy. I don't actually know where this fits in Modern because the Grishol brand deck, the Neoform deck, pops up from time to time, but it is not one that you really see in the format that much.
Yeah.
People aren't Goryo's Vengeancing back Gristlebrand or Atraxa much anymore right now. It has opportunity in front of it if the format ever changes to something like that, but right now, not so much.
So my reaction at first was based on the fact that you thought this was appropriately hyped, and I was like, that's fucking insane. But for Legacy, I completely agree. You're absolutely right. This card is overhyped for Commander by a wide margin, because at the tables that this matters at to me is like the CEDH tables. I'm winning through Thoracle. I'm winning through Adnaz.
Yep.
I'm winning through some twin combination or some 2-card combo that involves my general or something else. This doesn't dodge any of those. This doesn't prevent Tainted Pact from exiling my library. This doesn't prevent Ad Nauseam from putting 40 cards into my hand because I'm not drawing them.
Yeah.
The one thing it does shut off is the green decks, because I guess Sylvan Library. But at the same time, like you said, you have to put so much into shotgunning people when they have 40 life.
Yeah.
When I cast a wheel and you can deal 21, cool, you can kill one person. But the other 2 people just drew 7 new cards.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have a win in hand. And at 2 mana creature spot, you're competing for a lot of stuff that's in like the stacks category. Well, this could go in a stacks list, like a blood pod that has a little bit of an aggro finish to it, but I don't know that it's more efficient, because at the end of the day, if I'm the blue player drawing a bunch of cards, I still have Psych Rift.
Yeah.
I still have infinite ways to deal with your stuff that I just don't care about this little, your orc army that you're amassing over there. It just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think this card, though, you're right, is very good in Legacy. I did not have a card that was just right, but I had another group of cards that I thought was underhyped for all of the focus going on this set because of the Lord of the Rings money behind it, because Lord of the Rings people have money to spend, they're old collectors, blah, 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 whatever the case is, whatever you want to call it. The map lands are insane to me for that reason. Foils of these cards are like sub 50 cents. You can get quite a few of almost all of them for sub 50 cents plus shipping. They make a panorama that is just Middle-earth.
Yep.
If we are assuming, I think correctly, that there will be a number of Lord of the Rings fans getting into this, one of the most liquid things I can possibly have, because not every Lord of the Rings fan has 500 to drop on a Soul Ring or cares. I can make the map of Middle-earth fairly affordably, in foil or non, and display it on my wall in a place that people can see and will recognize as, oh, that's Middle-earth.
You know what is going to sell infinitely on Etsy?
Boards of these?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such an obvious one to me. And I know that years ago I said the Ikoria flip lands were great for the same reason. I still think they're great for the same reason. But there are way more fans of the map of Middle-earth on this planet than there are people who even know what Ikoria is.
Big true.
So to me, these are just a huge opportunity, because not only do you get your Lord of the Rings collectors, you get the people who just want like a draft set of these, who just want all their EDH lands to be Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And it's at a price point that's accessible. It's at a price point that's desirable. It is also, to its detriment and benefit, a special land which we've been getting a ton of. They come in every set. However, these are the most special lands we've had in a long time. Because you know what they can't just go and do on a whim? Reprint Middle-earth without more licensing fees.
Yeah.
Which, as per the last investor call, was one of the reasons we're not producing enough money, because of the Universes Beyond licensing fees. Well, this is effectively reserve list then, for less than $1. And everybody knows I love reserve list slumlording. But in this case, I think this one has legs. I just think it's a really good opportunity. Throw $10 at each of them, foil, non, whatever. Throw them in a box, check on them later, come back and be like, oh man, I either am in the exact same spot and they haven't moved at all, or enough supply has dried up, enough people have started peeling them out that the price is up there again.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, they're just always liquid.
It's true. I guess the closest thing you could reference is the Portal, is it 1 or Portal 2 lands that make a panorama?
1, I believe, yeah.
Yeah. So I know I did this as a joke. When I built Mono Red Zozu, I bought specifically the panorama lands for like nothing, MP, for cents on the dollar, basically. So I had something to do during other players' turns. I could just rearrange my lands into the panorama. Yeah. Because it gave me, and it something to do, like I said. But over time, if you go back and you look at the price history for all of them, they've all just skyrocketed in price, and they're now dollars per for these panorama lands.
Yeah.
Like Portal 1, not really opened that well because it's a Portal set, or it's a really weird. So there's not a lot out there to begin with. There's probably, there's going to be infinitely more Middle-earth than there will be Portal, but this is kind of the closest thing we really have to that.
Yeah.
I would say otherwise it would be kind of like the Ikoria stuff, like you pointed out. And that's about it. We don't really have a lot that we can point to. There are there's the small panoramas in like Tempest and stuff, or somewhere around there.
Urza's Saga had some too. Yeah.
Yeah, like those. And I think
like the 3-card panoramas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there were not the APAC and Euro lands, but there's another set that's kind of like that too.
It wasn't P3K, was it?
No, I want to say it was like some weird arena thing. Like, you know how they gave out the foil?
Oh, yeah, the non-foil arena lands, I think, Panorama too.
As well, yeah. So it's like there are some like lands like this that you can really kind of point to and like use as your marker, your bellwether for what's going to happen here. And all of those lands, the graph on them is just ridiculous. After a certain point in time, it's like nothing and then everything. So I agree. I think this is a really good spot to be in where you can just put them in a box. And like you said, what's the worst that happens? Either you're in the same spot and you can just use them for draft or cube or whatever, what have you. Or you could go down the Etsy route and figure out a way to
monetize them at a higher dollar amount.
Yeah, mount and back them and send them out as a completed piece. Like, there's a lot to do here. So I think there's a lot of ways you can be creative with these lands outside of just holding them if you want to. And make money on them, and I think it's an absolutely good look because they're so cheap, and like you said, there are more fans of Middle-earth on this planet than there are Ikoria, or know about Middle-earth than Ikoria.
Yeah.
So why the hell not? And then for me, I did something similar. Like I have like a handful of underhyped cards, but they're all like really quick because I just don't quite get it. Yeah. So the first one is Sauron, the Dark Lord, and Sauron's pretty simple up front. 3 and Grixis. Ward is sacrifice a legendary artifact or legendary creature, cool, whatever. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, amass 1 orc, cool, whatever. Whenever an army you control deals combat damage to a player, the ring tempts you. Interesting. Whenever the ring tempts you, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 4 cards. It's the last 2 that are insane.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yep. So you can... you need the orcs, right? So the amass thing is really important. So you got to be at like a... But it's any kind of spell. It doesn't matter what it is. So you build orcs... You let the ring tempt you, which is all positive, by the way. Every tempt on the ring is positive. It's not like insane, but it's all positive. And every step of the way, that when whatever tempts you, you just get to draw 4 cards. Let's discard your hand, draw 4. I don't understand how this card is just seemingly not talked about. It does.
Card's really good.
Yeah. Everything down the line here just seems ridiculously good.
Yeah.
The next, similarly, Aragorn the Uniter. 4 colors, Wurg, red, green, white, blue, everything but black. Legendary creature, human noble. So this is your commander, right? We start here. It's a 4 mana for a 5/5. It's basically it's Omnath. It's same thing. Whenever you cast a white spell, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Cool. Whenever you cast a blue spell, scry 2. Cool. Whenever you cast a red spell, it deals 3 damage to target opponent. Now we're getting somewhere. And whenever you cast a green spell, target creature you control gains +4/+4 until end of turn. Now, people were really excited about this, and I said it in a tweet. I said, this card and Aloran are best friends. And why is that? Because there is at least 1 creature in every possible color pairing on this card that gates. And gating is magic parlance. It is a shorthand term for a creature that reads, when this enters the battlefield, return a creature that shares one of the 2 colors back to its owner, that you control back to its owner's hands. So basically, you play the creature, it targets itself, it returns Cavern Harpy, returns it back. Silver Drake, there's a red-green Kavu that I know of as well. Exactly. So you make the masturbating motion, and you win. Right? Yeah. You just the red-green Kavu just wins the game. Just bang, 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 bang. Right. Silver Drake is blue and white, so you're gonna scry and make a bunch of tokens. There's another green one. You can just pump 1 creature. And Allure allows you to do all of this because all of these creatures cost 3 or less, which is the condition on Allure. So I don't think this card is underhyped because of Allure. I think it's underhyped because people might not want to actually combo out with Aragorn. They want to play a longer game and they don't see how it's good when they could be playing 4 mana Omnath instead.
Yeah.
I get that. So, but when you dig in, you're like, how do I actually win quickly with this? That's why I think it's underhyped. People just aren't really digging in on this card. They don't want to. They haven't for whatever reason. And so I think it's underhyped because of that. To me, when I saw this and I saw what the red creature did, I'm like, that's it. I pair this with Lauren. If I'm going to play CEDH or if I'm going to be really competitive at a commander table, this is it. I'm just going to gate my red-green Kavu forever or whatever. If I could figure out how to do it with Shivan Worm, the 7/7 for 5, blam, 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 blam. Cool.
So good.
Yeah. I'll pandemonium you as well. 7 damage every time as it comes in.
Yeah,
3 damage off Aragon. Bam, bam, bam. Cool. Gotcha. I think this card is underhyped. It is, like everything else on the list, on a very steady decline in terms of price. But if I had to guess anything we talked about, this is probably the one that's going to recover the best, aside from the lands. The last one I have is Mithril Coat. And this isn't even Darksteel Plate at home. Darksteel Plate... Mithril Coat at home is Darksteel Plate. This costs 3. It equips for 3. It's a piece of equipment that has flash and indestructible, which Darksteel Plate, as I believe, does not. And it says, whenever it enters the battlefield, attach it to a legendary creature you control. Equipped creature has indestructible. The difference between this and Darksteel Plate is Darksteel Plate only costs 2 to equip. So you can just flash this in and attach it straight to your commander. It is just... seemingly,
pretty good.
Yeah, a seemingly better Darksteel Plate. And it seems like nobody has picked up on this yet at all. That was the first thing I thought. It was like, this is just literally better text than Darksteel Plate. Why has nobody been saying anything about this? Okay, Darksteel Plate itself is indestructible. That's it. Darksteel Plate is a $10 card in 57,000 decks on rec. Just for... sake of mention. Right now, Mithril Coat is down to like $7 from the 12 that I saw it at a couple of days ago when I was going through this list. Like, it's on the slide, and I would pick it up because I don't think people realize what this card does or is right now. And so
which is very good.
Yep, very, very underhyped.
Yeah, it is easily, I think, the best equipment in this set, and I think it is the thing that has the most legs long term.
Yep.
Because of its viability in Commander. I don't think it'll ever be like 60 card playable or anything.
No, not at all.
I also don't think I care.
No.
It's just really good.
Yeah. The one I was actually fighting over to bring up on this, and I just don't have notes on it, is just Glamdring. It costs 2 to play, 3 to equip. Equipped creature has first strike and gets +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard, which is I think the exact same text as Runecanter's Pike, but nobody cares about that card in Commander. It ran the standard format alongside Delver and Snapcaster Mage. That's what closed out, and Invisible Stalker. That's what closed out the games. Was Runecanter's Pike. Then there's a bunch more text on it that allows you to cast spells from the graveyard. Again, another card that nobody really seems to be talking about. And I have no notes. I just literally read the card, and I just don't
get it.
Yeah. I think that is I think these two are like the best equipment in the set, hands down.
Yeah,
hands down. And you said the underhype was the lens. You got nothing else? Nothing you want to talk about left for the set?
Not really. I mean, there's some things that honestly I wish would get more exposure.
Yeah.
But the people who are talking about them, I think, are talking about them appropriately. I think there's a lot of really cute cards in this set that I think, would be cool. I think Last March of the Ents, flavor-wise, is neat.
Yeah.
I'm sure you love it because green cards that draw a ton of cards have been kind of your picks lately.
Well, that and Doran was the first deck I helped one of my friends build, and he wanted to play spiders. If you were not to look up Shalab because people are just whatever, look up Ishkana.
Yeah, Ishkana. Yeah.
And look at Ishkana in decks, and you'll see that Doran is oftentimes the commander of a spider-based deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I am, for a number of reasons, I am fans of Draw Off the Booty.
Yeah. I also think the actual dock side out of this set, not Smog, the dragon that's X costs X less to cast.
The red one?
Yeah, the red one. Whenever it deals combat damage, you create a treasure token for each artifact that player controls.
Yeah.
That's way more dockside
Yes.
than Orcish Bowmasters is, people.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's a dragon. People love those.
Yeah.
Also combines very good with, I think it's Hellkite Tyrant, the one from RTR.
Mm-hmm.
If you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game.
Yeah.
This makes a ton of those. So I think that's a card that, to me, I'm going to be keeping an eye on. And when it gets to like my buy-in point, which is probably going to be like $2 to $3, I'm going to snap off a few of them because I just think long-term that's a really good card to have it $2 to $3.
Yeah, 100%. I like that card as well. I just wasn't sure I was going to drop that low, but it was one I was going to keep my eye on as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything I have left on the sheet to talk about is all overhyped stuff. Like, I don't get why people like Spiteful Banditry. Like,
It doesn't make sense to me either.
All the Cabaret shit in Streets of New Capenna, all the Jund stuff only triggered once per turn. And people read that very quickly and turned heel on all those cards. Yet everybody loves Spiteful Banditry, despite the fact that it only works once a fucking turn. You're making one trade.
Literally the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because it's Lord of the Rings, and I feel like that's had a lot of things that have kind of carried it, and I hate it.
Yeah, and then so I don't get that, and nobody was talking about Gandalf the White, but the price on that card was insane, despite the fact that it's just Raf Capuchin with like more steps to be good. Raf Capuchin is 2 colors. Gandalf is 1.
Yeah.
It makes things so much more difficult, and they basically have the exact same trigger.
Right.
Like, I don't.
It doesn't. It's the same thing, and nobody liked Raf outside of like that 2-week period where that historic deck was dominating.
Yeah, even in Commander, it is like Raf is one of the worst commanders, and it's like literally the exact. I just didn't like no, but like I said, nobody was talking about this card. It just had a price I just did not fucking understand at all. Like it was mind-boggling, and it's still in my notes. It's just a really expensive card to go in the 99. Like
it's exactly.
insane.
I just don't understand why. Yeah. But hey, whatever. You guys do you.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so on to picks, and I'm gonna go first because my notes for this are like the exact same as last week's.
Yeah.
So last week we talked about Rishkar's expertise, and when I was looking over cards to talk about, I realized some fun stuff about Return of the Wild Speaker, which is a card I talked about last week in regards to Rishkar's expertise and how it was like the second best option after that. So here we are. And so we're looking at Return of the Wild Speaker, and I'm going to bring up the stocks graph while we look at this card, which costs 4 and a green for an instant. Choose one. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. No, not trample, just +3/+3. And I'm zooming into the stocks graph, and what we're seeing is this crash. And this crash is actually why we're looking at this card, because the market on this card is $1.87 right now. It was $1.84 this morning when I was writing out my notes. Okay, that is down from $2.99 literally a month ago when I put this on my list. At that point in time, though, Card Kingdom was buying 38 at $1.50. Right now, Card Kingdom is buying 136 at $1.80, which is the market price. That was the opening bell on this card. Somebody's fulfilled a bunch. It looks like it might be headed down to $1.50. If that stays steady tomorrow morning when they open, don't know. But at the end of the day, they were beginning of the day, they were 1-to-1. So Card Kingdom is buying 4 times more at about 25% more, which is fantastic. So for whatever reason, while the open market is crashing, Card Kingdom is buying in, and that's exactly what we're looking at today. So this plays in Commander the exact same way as Rishkar's expertise. This is green card draw, but the go wide isn't just general in regards to like, cool, we now get to play a spell. The upside on this is for go wide strategies, +3/+3 for all non-human creatures you control, right? So that plays more into that go wide synergy strategy. Otherwise, it reads the exact same. You're going to play this in decks with creatures whose power basically 5 or greater. It does actually play well against Last March of the Ents, which draws off toughness as well. So just like Rishkar's expertise, this all goes hand in hand. It's all part of the same suite. Yep. Return of the Wild Speaker, though, however, is a little more agnostic because it allows you to play go wide. So you will see when you look at the the listing on EDHREC, one of the more popular sorceries to go alongside Return of the Wild Speaker, is Harmonize. 2 green, draw 3 cards. We talked about that last week, how that's a completely different class of draw spells for green, completely creature independent.
Yeah.
Right? Return of the Wild Speaker doesn't let you come back like Rishgar's Expertise does. This one's more about winning the game, because you don't get to cast that extra card, but you do get to pump the entire team. So that's really what you're looking for is, sure, you can make one big chonker on your turn, draw some cards at the end of the turn on the person to your right and get back in that way, but you don't get the free cast. You just get the instant speed draw. So you're really just looking to kind of punch through with return and hope to win, end the game that way. Maybe in the mid to late game, if you got to claw back, draw 4 to 5 cards, and that's about it. That's what you're getting out of this card. A win con and then some card draw. Not this agnostic play a spell thing. Yeah. Timeline for this: we're buying into the open market dip, like I said, as CK is showing growth, and that allows us to arbitrage now and get ahead of eventual recovery. With no new injection of supply, the price drop we are seeing looks like it has more to do with the fact that the Lord of the Rings decks play into toughness-based draw rather than power-based draw. That is, last March of the Ents, along with Shalab and the spider kind of stuff, which looks at toughness, not power. Cool. So once the heat on this set cools a bit, we should be able to move any additional copies back into the open market for a decent market price in a few weeks, with an outside of about 3 months. And I'm giving us that amount of time because we don't know when the One Ring is going to be found, and we don't know when Lord of the Rings players are truly going to be sated. I like to think that we're going to be somewhere in the first quarter of release, the first 3 months, everything will kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm looking. This does sell about 400 copies a month between Near Mint and LP, so we'll move through the low end of the supply and see this jump to about $4 within the next few weeks if velocity holds steady. Good. So if we buy in now, that's that markup that I'm talking about. CK is not going to keep up as well, but you could arbitrage immediately for a couple cents, like 40 or 50 cents per copy right now if you can get in at $1.50-ish, $1.80-ish cash.
Pretty good.
Yep. Reprint equity, like Rishgar's Expertise, there was a point where this was printed in multiple Commander products in a year. So I would expect that to happen again in the future, as it's the best home for a card tied directly to a Planeswalker who hasn't shown up for a long while now. What is Garruk doing? Don't know. Didn't show up on on Rav when we went back for War of the Spark. Didn't show up at all in the Phyrexian storyline. We don't know if Garruk was desparked. We have no idea what's going on with this Planeswalker right now. So the best place for this card is to just be printed in supplementals. When this happens again, I don't know, but it was like Rishgar's Expertise, just back to back to back to back. I think it was like 3 or 4 in a row. So similarly, that did create a dip initially, plateaued for a little while. Then we're seeing those 400 copies a month. Once market started to drain pretty steadily, price went back up. So we can feel pretty confident that the dip that we're seeing now, we will pull out of in the near future. By quantity overall, I've got about 8 of these spread across my decks that I play, because very cheap card draw, does green. Does the kind of things I like to do. I'm not the kind of green player that will utilize Harmonize well. I'm the kind of green player that will utilize +3/+3 until to all non-human creatures until the end of my turn. Better. So I've got those, and I don't think I have much of a backstock. Maybe like 2 or 3 of those 8 are in backstock, but every time I pick them up, I basically have a home for them. Otherwise, I would just churn through them pretty quickly. I don't know what my new velo is going to look on them, but my old velo was definitely the moment somebody saw them.
Yeah. I like this card a lot. One of my favorite things about this is its instant card speed in green, or instant card draw in green, which doesn't really exist very often in the color. Obviously, as a blue mage, you're spoiled. Everything's instant speed except for Ponder Preordain. But this being instant speed is huge. The one thing I will say is if it is getting reprinted at all, I think the only spot it's likely to happen in the next year is Ikoria. Because if we go back to Beasts again, Maybe they try to throw Garrick in there with no explanation in the meantime, because I don't see how he possibly comes in before then. But that risk is so low that I don't think it matters. Also, it's just green card draw that's also go big mode.
Yeah, it could also be Wilds of Eldraine.
Yeah.
Because that was the last time we saw...
Was an Eldraine, that's right? Fair, yeah.
But yeah, either place makes sense for that reason.
Yeah. His curse was broken then, and like he's there, but that was it. The end, nothing else.
Exactly. It was Garruk Cursed Huntsman on Eldraine. Everybody should remember when he ate the gingerbread person in the trailer for that set. And after that, it's there because Garruk's just big chillin'.
Yeah.
Or he's just taken to Ikoria like a number of other planeswalkers have for some reason. Like, with the Immortal Sun gone, I don't know what the draw to that plane is anymore for a planeswalker, but moving underground and whatever's going to go on down there does allow to see like the Land of the Lost, like we talked about last time. What's going on underneath Ikoria? Is it just a lot of like turdy little merfolks floating around, or do we have like the Tohei universe style thing with the hollow
Are there
earth?
kaiju everywhere?
Yeah, exactly. There are more kaiju inside Ikoria that are somehow bigger and worse than the ones on up top. Yeah.
But no, I think this is great. It is, in my opinion, probably... I don't know if it's the best green draw spell, but it is my favorite.
I think if you have to break green draw out, I'm going to that's the hill I'm going to die on. And when you look at this class of green draw spell that isn't agnostic, that isn't harmonized, that isn't Sylvan Library, that is reliant on your creatures, I think it is hands down exactly one of the best, if not, like you said, the best, because it ends the game. You want to play tokens in green? Cool. We got you, fam. You're playing dinosaurs, you want to punch through? We got you, fam. Yeah.
We've got you. Are you in Mael or any Naya build that cares about fatties? Great. We've got you.
Yeah, and then
you literally don't need green creatures. You could just run dragons.
Yeah.
Still works.
Exactly. Yep.
My pick is something I deliberately didn't mention earlier in the episode, as something that I think is underhyped or undervalued. Great Hall of the Citadel. So this one's kind of interesting. Periodically throughout the history of the cast, I've shot my shot at some random, seemingly innocuous land or common or something from commander sets.
Yep.
It's not quite a commander set, but it does focus on legendaries.
Mm-hmm.
So it reads tap, add a colorless. Whatever. The second half, 1 colorless tap, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast legendary spells. Sure, the halfling is better than this for that part. But this has way more applications because it can go in every single deck, similar to Great Plaza, which I believe before the cast we were talking, it's like 5% of all decks, which is insane for a utility land.
Yep.
The closest analog we have to this, and I'm going to mention this before I mention quantity everything else, is Untaidake from the original Kamigawa. Tap, pay 2 life, add 2 colorless. Spend it only to play legendary spells.
Oh, it's from like the Baseji style cycle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hall of the Bandit Lord was in there?
Yeah, that was the one. And Shizo, I think, was the other.
Storehouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the foils are like $30 on that card. Ooh. The non-foils for LP are hovering around $5. Now, by no means am I saying that Great Hall of the Citadel will reach $5 because, again, the set's going to be opened into the ground. But right now, we're sitting at 15 cents. This is absolutely a card that I could see at some point hitting a $1 to $2 buy list on Card Kingdom just by sheer demand of the card. Now, it's not going to be soon. This is something that's probably at least a year off. Now, is that going to stop me from buying 100 copies? No, I already did. 50 foil, 50 non. I didn't spend more than a quarter on any of them outside of shipping. This is the kind of thing that I think you buy, you stick it in a box, and you literally forget about it until you go through the box a year later. And that's when you start, okay, well, let me see. How's the buy list on this? It's just great utility for casual EDH. It's ramp-ish when you need it. It's fixing. It lets you cast your commander reliably. If you do go into the epic area with the halfling that you would with the halfling, it's there. I just like the fact that it goes in any single deck where you need some kind of utility land. Now, by no means is this ever going to see play in CEDH, but this is absolutely the kind of card that I could see a casual player. Well, I need to fill out my lands. Let me go ahead and get this because it will help me cast my commander, and it still taps for colorless on top of that.
Yeah.
Which is not something that Untaidaki has. And Untaidaki, granted Kamigawa, commands a $5 price point or $30 for foil. Now, for foils, personally, I'd go a little bit heavier into those. The reason is because of how common foils have been packaged in recent products with collector boosters. There are far fewer foil versions of commons than there are of any other rarity, because at most you're getting 1 to 2 per collector booster.
Yep.
Whereas you're getting 5 to 8 rares or mythics. That being the case, the fact that most players are going to be opening up collector boosters, obviously stores have been opening set to stock their singles, and that's fine. But that's not something you go back and reopen at a later date. Once you've opened your singles quantity, you're basically done based on what gets traded in after that. So I think while we're not quite at peak market, we've only got 86 listings of this card. I think that this is a card that long-term slow roll, very, very, very good. We've already got a foil market at about $1, and the foils can be had for less than 50 cents still. So we've cratered. I don't see it getting much lower than that. Buy in at the low and park it away because of the price point in this. Easily $15 for 100 of them. Cool. Just throw them in a box and forget about it. It's $15. Fine. I just think long term it's really solid, and well, maybe not really solid. It's speculative. Yeah. But I think it's one of the better speculative things that you can park $15 into.
Yeah. The other land that this reminded me of, and it's not really that similar, was Rupture Spire.
Yeah, actually, I can see that.
ETB's tapped. When it ETBs, you sack it unless you pay a colorless, and then it just taps for a mana of any color after that. And Rupture Spire is a 15-cent card. It still commands a price, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure nobody plays it anymore. No. And the foil now is 75 cents. It was closer to $1, but I don't know why it tanked. It's not like it was really reprinted recently.
Yeah, I mean, the Conflux had the foil packs.
Well, no, that's what I'm looking at. Conflux holds steady at 75 and then just starts to dip around Midnight Hunt. Maybe people literally just stop playing this card overall. Rupture Spire does have a guaranteed foil as well in premium deck slivers, which are not too difficult to find, those foils, because people busted that deck apart for some of the harder to find slivers. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if Rupture Spire is a card that can hold a 15-cent market and nobody's playing it, and that's 15 cents across all versions, and a 50-cent market on foil, it's not too hard to imagine a world where Hall of the whatever,
Great Hall of the Citadel,
like doubles up. Yeah, at all. It's not hard to imagine, and this is, like you said, a good card to hold on to. You can probably start splitting stock in a couple of weeks. Binder some, box the rest, and then just refill as people trade them out. Not everybody's going to be busting packs. Not everybody's going to be picking up Commander, which I assume this card is also going to be in, because why wouldn't you put like an almost dedicated...
A legendary dedicated card in the Commander set?
Especially a common?
Yep.
Like it's a land, you can slot that one in. Although I haven't looked at the list, maybe it's not there. Like, you're going to just find people that for whatever reason aren't engaging with this product in such a way that they pick these cards up. Or maybe they opened 1 or 2 but need the rest for their decks, This isn't...
If I have 40 decks, I can probably put this in 12 at least.
This isn't the second coming of Reliquary Tower, But it is definitely something that you can probably move en masse in a binder. So at the end, like I said, I do think this is definitely a good pickup overall, especially at quantity. It's nothing... If you wanted to play the wait and see game, you could probably wait a couple of weeks and maybe get these a little cheaper. But other than that, run it. No problem at all. So, anything else before we cut out?
That's all I got.
All right. So for at MtG Cabalcast on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and YouTube, I am at Halt. I am Reptar. You are
at Thirsty Sizzler.
I'll see you next week.